All right, Jean Grey has entered the contest. Let's discuss. All right, so Jean Grey comes into the contest with reverse control, immunity, and she has exhaustion and psionic charges, and she deals all of her attacks are energy damage. So you can do a lot about with that. But first, let's talk about her combo. What is her combo like? Well, when I was playing her, I thought she was relatively easy to play. There was no clunkiness to play her. She didn't really have a ramp, and you got quick access to all of her damage really quickly. Again, and you can throw her specials really easy with her power bar being adjusted the way it is. I really had a good time playing her, and I had a really fun time just learning her and trying to understand her skill set. So overall, she wasn't clunky. It will be some issues with adjusting to her heavy attack, trying to counter it to remove those debuffs. But other than that, I thought she was great. I thought she was really great. So first up, let's talk about her strengths. What are some of her strengths? Well, one of her strengths is debuff control. You got a champion like Kingpin who benefits from debuffs. She can take those debuffs away and purify them and use them to her advantage and do additional damage to him with them. So keep that in mind. And also she has a force field, and the great thing about it, she doesn't need to be awakened to benefit from the force field. She gets a force field unawakened, and it definitely helps her against champions like Hork with his force damage. And she also has access to neural shocks, and they're really easy to get. I think you get them on the heavy. I mean, not the well. I guess you can get them on the heavy and also on her light attacks and maybe even her medium. So yeah, really easy to play. But she does have some weaknesses. One of her weaknesses is champions who are energy resistant. Champion against like Havoc will destroy Phoenix because if you deal energy damage to him, he's just gonna deal right back to you. So yeah, she's not good with energy damage and damage over time. She doesn't really have any real immunities besides one, and as you can see, it's not bleed or poison. So yeah, any damage over time will destroy her force field, and you can rip right into her. And she's also not really good with evade because she's kind of dependent on her debuffs and like making contact with the opponent. So she's not going to be good with evade. She doesn't really counter that. And another thing she doesn't really counter, she also doesn't really counter auto block. So any champions that auto block are going to really slow her down a tremendous amount and really gimp her damage and her abilities. So keep that in mind when playing her. What are her immunities? She only really has one immunity, and that is she's immune to reverse controls. You don't have to worry about reverse controls when playing her. Other than that, she doesn't really have any immunity. So again, if you have a champion that does damage over time, they're pretty much going to melt her force field. What is she like awakened? Now, I will say she's fine unawakened, but when she is awakened, while Jean has her force field active, using the parry mastery instead inflicts a 1.5 stun stun passive, which is beneficial. And the skill champions cannot reduce the ability accuracy of the stun. And she increases control over the mutation, allows Jean to retain one uncanny passive after her special one, and increase the duration of all neural shock passive by additional 8 seconds. So again, she doesn't really need to be awakened, but I do think she's like every champion in the game outside of long shot. She does benefit from her awakened ability, and having an increased duration on those neural shocks will only deal additional damage, and getting that passive stun with the parry could really help out. Her prestige is 27,380, so I think she has pretty decent prestige, but I don't think anyone's gonna, put 6 stones into her for just prestige. What's he like on defense? Well, defensively, I think she's going to be a really tricky defender. I'm using Ghost here, and as you can see, everything's working out fine. But as you can see, my controls are getting inverted. She always has I think a percentage to invert the controls on her special attacks. So keep that in mind when playing her. And because she can counter miss, she can destroy ghosts. But if you figure out how to play her and can put a damaging debuff, she won't be that bad because again, she doesn't really have any immunities outside reverse controls. She just is going to be a really tricky defender, and she gets quick access to her specials as well. So keep that in mind because that's built into her kit. So overall, I think in Battlegrounds, I think she's going to be good offensively and defensively, not just good on defense. I think she has quick access to her damage, and her specials, I can't lie, they can be kind of tricky to dex, especially since it's a newer champion. So I think her SP1 is what you want to get her at because it's easier to dex than her SP2. Her SP2, I think it's like a 3-hit SP2, so keep that in mind when fighting her. I wouldn't push her to an SP2, but I'm gonna show it here. Like, her SP2 has 3 hits on it, and it can definitely do a lot of damage, a lot. So right here, look, 3 hits can be kind of challenging to deck, so keep that in mind. The stat focuses I'll recommend for her are block proficiency and physical resistance. Anything that helps Jean take less damage, keeps her force field and the associated utility up longer. So those are the 2 stat focuses I'll recommend from her. To be honest, I think on defense, I would probably recommend the special stat focus, but then again, I think that's really good for any champion. So leave a comment below if you think another one. I didn't really find many good relics for her. I do think the Storm relic would be beneficial for her for various reasons, but other than that, I couldn't really find a good relic for her. So leave a comment below on what relic you think would be good for her. But I think Kabam needs to go back to making relics. And also, there weren't many masteries that I think Jean will be good for. And these are my overall thoughts too. Yeah, see, there aren't really good masteries for her because you gotta throw your SP2 and she doesn't really heal. But I do think she has a lot of pros and some cons, like every other champion. She has great utility, she has a really easy play style, she's fine on the Awaken, and she's also a tricky defender. Now, her cons are, she doesn't really have really good immunities. I mean, reverse controls, I think it's a little bit niche. I think at this point in the game, everyone's kind of decent at dealing with reverse controls. She's not good for the damage masteries. She also doesn't gain any prowess, in my opinion, so keep that in mind. Like most mutant champions, they gain prowess, but her, no prowess gain. And in my opinion, her synergies are a little bit weak, but again, since the game has moved towards, you know, a battlegrounds focused game, the synergies don't really matter. I don't think anyone looks forward to using synergies with any champions, especially with questing nowadays, especially since Kabam made it so, you know, you can't really rely on synergies. You need counters for almost everything. So, but overall, I think her pros outweigh her cons. And I think in battlegrounds, Jean Grey is going to be really, really good. She's going to do damage offensively, and she's going to be a threat defensively. And we don't have many champions that are dual threats nowadays. And I think Jean Grey definitely does bring that to the contest. And I think I will be hunting for her. I don't think I would use a generic Awakening gem or generic 6 stones on her, but if I had a mutant gem, maybe. Depends on my mood, if I didn't have anyone else to use it on, but maybe. But overall, I think she's a pretty solid champion, and I think she's gonna be a hassle to deal with in Battleground. So yeah, I think Kabam knocked it out the park with this champion. So, but leave your comments below. Let me know what you think, and how do you feel about Jean Grey? I would appreciate it. But if you did like this video, please hit that like button. And for anyone new here, if you can hit that sub button, I'll greatly appreciate it. Y'all take care. Have a great and wonderful day.